Alright, kind of a response video to a My Misery of Me video, reaction, whatever, add-on. Talking about where we would be if we didn't have to acquire understanding in the kind of chaotic, undisciplined, we were never taught how to be human directly. And so we have all this archaic stuff that we have to maintain compatibility with, so to speak, philosophically. And so we're still in a place where religion is a respectable idea, at least socially. We're obligated. Lots of silly notions we're obligated to respect, because there's enough idiots afflicted that we have to. And where we would be if, like right from the beginning, they told you the truth. Just like when you're growing up as a kid, if they told you the truth right from the beginning. Okay, daddy's dick gets hard, he gets horny, he wants to stick dick in vagina, and babies pop out sometimes, and sometimes they have kids because they want to pass on their name, and sometimes they have kids because they want workers, and it's usually partly because women need something to love them unconditionally, because they feel like they're losers or something. They have some sort of inferiority thing, and if they don't have a fucking kid to manipulate and psychologically abuse, they don't feel full and complete. Some kind of bullshit like that. Yeah, so if you're told the truth, that's what your parentage is. Shit. You're living in this stupid ass world. A bunch of people don't know what the fuck they're doing. They lie through their fucking teeth constantly. Yeah, well, anyway, the point is, you would maturate very differently than if you lived the lies and played Christmas and Easter games and blah 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 blah, all the bullshit. But what we should be we should be way past is having to indulge in anything where we can't make these distinctions, where we can't make a distinction between being a psychology, being human, and understanding the human game, the game of the sentient life form on Earth. Oh yeah, he's dead. Flying about. Just amazingly, a lot of dead ones. Anyway, just seems early for this many dead ones. But, weather. They're all might quite cold. So, this distinction between our psychology and this thing we can do called logic and thinking and reasoning, so we can understand the difference between playing a game, being caught up in it, the competition of it, and then analyzing a game and saying, well, is the game really meritorious? Is the injury rate too high? Is it too slow moving? We could understand that there are games that are better performers than others in terms of what they cost to participate in as participants, how much risk to your physical welfare there is, the skill level, the drama created, how often there's an exciting moment, all this kind of stuff. And whether the skill is really obvious, ball in hoop kind of fact. You either put the ball in the hoop or you don't. We could analyze games and say, well, that's a good game. It's got a lot of fairness in it. It's a good test. And then some other game you could say, oh, it's completely arbitrary. It's about, whether they were pretty, whether their costume fit properly, some other kind of bullshit. Yeah, and then you say, well, yeah, that's not really a game. That's not really a sport. That's kind of a sloppy thing. Nice art, but can't really analyze it. So anyway, point I'm making is that we can understand that there's a difference between being in the maze, living, you got to do it, and having knowledge of the maze, having knowledge of the game being played with your psychology. And so much of who you are is this creature of habit shit. People are just so delusional in terms of how they think they, especially when raising kids. Oh, I'll just say something good to them, like, be kind to your grandma. And they'll be kind to grandma. Somehow their psychology can be muted by, a sense of fair-mindedness or so many things. It's going to be controllable by a few well-spoken words. I'll make them feel confident, and that way they won't have an inferiority complex and be a petty asshole. Yeah, but the downside is then they might end up being an arrogant motherfucker. An obnoxious, egomaniacal crazy fuck. And so it's always more complicated than that. It's like, it's just virtually almost impossible to steer somebody's... Well, it's not impossible. It's just that it's unethical to play the game. But, you could basically steer somebody's sexual proclivities, their preferences. Because it's all these little arbitrary circumstances. Whether or not certain events happen, when you lose your virginity, some other kind of crap, will decide an awful lot about what you become. What kind of relationships you have with people who you encounter in your life. And they're going to decide basically, really substantial parts of your habit. What becomes your, the force that drives you, the things that excite you, and conversely might maybe repulse you. And so your sensibilities will be built out of those experiences. And, rationally, you've got to say, man, it's way too important to be left to stupid circumstances of birth, and bad or good luck. And yet we do it. But yeah, again, if this was taken at all seriously for what it is, that our psychologies are completely mutable in our maturation, and what we are is habitual. We become comfortable with a certain kind of gameplay, and people wish to convert their comfort, their preference, their prejudice, their bias into a definition of reality. And that is always wrong. I mean, it's just wrong. It's just logically stupid. So wherever that bias can be demonstrated, not just the accusation made. Obviously, the accusation can always be made. Proving it is the tricky part. Demonstrating that the bias is controlling the thought perception is always the tricky part. I haven't really bothered making arguments from that point of view, because I think the argument should be about the argument. So when we're talking about the game, we should keep the personal crap out and just talk about the game. What does the game do? How does it function? How do the players function? And but see, that does require somebody to acknowledge the truth, that there's nothing, there's no innate knowledge, and there's no, let's see, and the fact is our psychology is crap. It just is. It's just made up of notions, of ideas, and that the only thing that matters is the end condition, whether something is happy or sad, comfortable or uncomfortable. And it doesn't really matter how you get there, except in that you would make judgments about the expense. So if somebody had a real sensitive ass and needed a $10 trillion super comfy cushion to sit on. You could obviously just say, too expensive, too high maintenance. Your comfort is just way too expensive. So it can't be justifiably provided. And we have to go with the more rational, more sensible economy of finding asses that are more easily comforted. That don't need $10 zillion chairs or cushions, but only need 10-cent ones. And there's an efficiency in acquiring satisfaction in straight lines. And once you start accepting that basic economy, you recognize very quickly that everything about our existence is contrivance, is luxury, and that there is no real value. You're just cleaning up, and when you're acting your best, messes that should never have been made. They have no serviceable parts. They have no serviceable function. They cannot function. Their only function is to fix their defunction. They have to first break it. And that's it. That's the first rule of the game we're playing. Break it and then fix it. And call yourself hero. That's all we've got. And that philosophical truth, that fact of the game, demonstrates that, we shouldn't be building stadiums. We shouldn't be subsidizing the sports teams. We should not do anything to say, play more of this idiotic game. And in fact, the sensible, rational person should do everything to prevent people from creating the waste that is playing that game. Because it just isn't a good enough game. Price too high for no rationally discernible function beyond the function of cleaning up your own dysfunction. It can't work. It's impossible. That truth would be overtly obvious if it wasn't for the habit, the tradition of pro-life, fluffy life kind of bullshit that has been allowed to bastardize the word philosophy. It perverted philosophy into the they've just maintained it in this ignorant state of thousands of years ago. And that's just really dumb. So anyway, bad habit. That's what it comes down to. Lots of bad habits. Lots of bad thinking, thought process habits. People are running the train on crappy track. What other metaphor? Whatever. It's a sloppily cut path. It's too random, too we shouldn't use the word random, too defined by erroneous, purposeless circumstance. It's just a bent road going nowhere. And people are just traveling it, like Greatex, because it's a journey. That's it. That's just dumb. It's ignorant. It's foolish. It's uninspired. It's inaccurate. It's an indignity to the truth, to intelligence. It's a cheat. It's wrong. Wrong thinking. And bad logic. Okay, until next time. Fucking horseflies are getting vicious. trying to drill holes in my head. Anyway, really aren't bad. But it's that time of year, and they've been waiting, through all the rain to really get obnoxious. All right, till next time.